Assalamualaikum and good morning everyone. Today, our group will present Edward Bernard Tyler's theory of religious evolution and its relevance to the concept of God in philosophy of religion. Religion is closely linked to philosophical discussion about God and humanity's understanding of ultimate reality. Scholars in philosophy of religion explore questions about God's existence, His nature, and how humans come to understand Him. Edward Bernard Tyler, in Primitive Culture, 1871, proposed that religion evolved in stages: animism, polytheism, and finally monotheism. He suggested that early humans explained natural phenomena through spirits, which later developed into more complex religious systems, ending with belief in one God. However, this raises important questions in philosophy of religion. Is religious belief really linear, and is monotheism truly the final stage of religious development? This question led modern scholars to reconsider Tyler's theory and explore more complex understanding of how the concept of God develops. Now, I will explain the problem statement of this study. The main issue with Tyler's theory is that it views religious development as a linear process from animism to polytheism and finally monotheism, suggesting that all religions follow the same path and that monotheism is the highest stage of belief in God. However, this view oversimplifies the diversity of religion as different traditions develop from different historical, cultural, and social contexts. Therefore, it is difficult to apply a single universal pattern to all religions. Another criticism is that Tyler's theory seems to favor Western monotheism, which may lead to other belief systems being seen as less advanced or primitive. In addition, modern research shows that some early societies already believe in a supreme being, which challenges the idea that monotheism is the final stage of religious evolution. Thus, many scholars argue that the concept of God develops in a more complex and non-linear way influenced by diverse human experiences.
My name is Wan Farhani Aisyah binti Wan Muhammad. My metric number 1233281. Now, I will continue the presentation by discussing the research questions, research objective, research methodology, and the background and contribution of Edward Bernard Tyler. First, our study is guided by three research questions. The first research question is, what is the background and contribution of Edward Bernard Tyler in the study of religious evolution, particularly on the concept of God? The second research question is, how does Edward Bernard Tyler explain the development of monotheism in his theory of religious evolution? The third research question is, what are the scholarly critiques of Edward Bernard Tyler's theory of religious evolution from polytheism to monotheism? These three questions guide the overall direction of our study. Based on these research questions, we developed three research objectives. The first objective is to examine Edward Bernard Tyler's background and his contribution to the study of religious evolution, especially on the concept of God. The second objective is to analyze Tyler's explanation of how religious belief developed into monotheism through the process of religious evolution. The third objective is to analyze the scholarly critiques of Tyler's theory, particularly his explanation of the transition from polytheism to monotheism. For our methodology, this research used a qualitative research designed through library research. The study relies entirely on secondary sources, including academic books, journal articles, theses, dissertations, and other scholarly publications related to the philosophy and anthropology of religion. Our primary source is Edward Bernard Tyler's book, Primitive Culture, Volume 1 and Volume 2, because this work explains his theory of religious evolution and his discussion of the concept of God. To strengthen the analysis, we also use secondary sources to evaluate and criticize Tyler's theory. This study applies three approaches. The first is the historical approach to understand Tyler's background and the development of anthropology during the 19th century. The second is the philosophical approach to analyze the assumptions and ideas behind his theory. The third is the comparative approach, which compares Tyler's view with other scholars in philosophy and religious studies. Finally, the study identifies several important themes, especially politism, monotheism, religious evolution, and the concept of God. Since this is a library-based study, no interviews, questionnaires, fieldwork, or quantitative analysis were conducted. Next, I will discuss Edward Bernard Tyler's background and contribution. Edward Bernard Tyler was born in London in 1832 and died in 1917. He was an English anthropologist and is widely recognized as the father of cultural anthropology. His most influential book is Primitive Culture, published in 1871, in which he introduced the theory of religious evolution. Although Tyler believed religion began with animism, our research focused mainly on the development from polytheism to monotheism. According to Tyler, polytheism is the belief in many gods, where each god has a different role, such as controlling nature, war, fertility, or the sea. He believed that this stage represented a more organized religious system compared to early belief because people started assigning different powers and responsibilities to different gods. As human thinking developed further, Tyler argued that religion evolved into monotheism, which is the belief in one supreme god. According to him, monotheism represents the highest stage of religious evolution because it reflects a more abstract, systematic, and rational understanding of the divine. In other words, instead of believing in many gods with separate powers, people come to believe that one almighty God governs to the entire universe. This idea became one of Tyler's most important contributions to anthropology because he attempted to explain religious development using a scientific and evolutionary perspective. His theory also influenced many later scholars, including James George Fraser and Emil Durkheim, in the field of anthropology and sociology of religion. That's all from me. Thank you.
My name is Hafidah Binti Jumain. My metric number is 1233265. Today I will discussing the concept of animism pioneered by the renowned anthropologist Edward Bernard Tyler in his monumental 1871 work, Primitive Culture. Tyler defined animism very simply as the general belief in spiritual beings. According to Tyler, animism arose from the philosophical of early humans trying to solve two main mysteries. First, the differences between a living body and corpse. Second, the phenomena behind dreams. From these observations, they conclude that humans possess a subtle, intangible entity called the soul or anima. Over time, the idea expanded. Early humans began attributing souls not just to themselves, but to everything around them: animals, plants, rocks, and rivers. For Tyler, the concept served as the starting point for his framework of unilateral evolution, where religion develops across three main stages. First, the animism stage, the earliest phase where humans believed that spirits were scattered across very natural objects. Second, the polytheism stage. As cognitive capacity and social structures grew, these spirits were classified and elevated based on specific functions, such as a good of rain or good of war. The third, the monotheism stage, the ultimate peak of human intellectual maturity, where the concept of multiple deities was unified under a single supreme power governing the universe. In conclusion, Tyler viewed the development of religion as a continuous intellectual evolution, moving from simple beliefs in nature spirits to the complex concept of a single universal God.
My name is Nurul Alia Binti Mazlan and my metric number is 1233266. Next, I'm going to explain Tyler's view on the development of religion. According to Tyler, religion develops gradually as human thinking becomes more advanced. He believed that early humans tried to explain things they did not understand, such as dreams, death, illness, and natural events. At the earlier stage, people believe in animism, which is the belief that spirits exist in humans, animals, and even natural objects. For example, if someone dreams about a dead relative, they might think the person's spirit had visited them. If a storm happened, they might believe a spirit was causing it. Over time, religious ideas became more organized. People began to believe in many gods, with each god controlling a different part of life, such as rain, thunder, war, or fertility. This stage is called polytheism. Eventually, Tyler said religion developed into monotheism, the belief in one god. He considered this a more mature and a rational stage of thinking because people started seeing the universe as a single, ordered system rather than something controlled by many different spirits. This idea also influenced the development of science. When people believed the universe was unified and orderly, they began looking for consistent natural laws. For example, instead of saying thunder happens because a god is angry, scientists study electric charts and weather patterns. The same approach helped develop modern science such as physics and chemistry. So, Tyler saw the development from animism to polytheism and finally monotheism as a sign of increasing human intellectual progress, and he believed this shift also helped prepare the way for modern scientific thinking.
Next, 8.0, Scholarly Critiques of Edward Bernard Taylor's Theory of Religious Evolution from Polytheism to Monotheism. Edward Bernard Taylor proposed that religion developed in stage, beginning with animism, followed by polytheism and finally monotheism. However, many scholars have criticized this theory. They argue that there is no clear evidence showing that all religions follow the same path of development. Different societies have different religious history and experience. The theory is also considered Eurocentric because it treats monotheism as the highest stage of religions. In addition, Taylor relied mainly on travel account and colony report rather than direct field work. As the result, his theory is often seen as an oversimplification of the complex and diverse natures of religions. Next, modern scholars argue that religious development is not a simple linear process. Animistic, polytheistic, and monotheistic belief can exist together within the same society. They also emphasize that religion changed through culture interaction, reform movement, revival effort, and historical influence. Therefore, each religion should be understood within its own social and cultural context. Most scholars today agree that no religion should be viewed as naturally superior to another. Lastly, the conclusions. In conclusion, Taylor's theory was an important early contribution to the academic study of religions. It helps scholars explore how humans understand and explain supernatural and divine realities. However, contemporary research shows that religious development cannot be explained by a single evolutionary model. The concept of God and religion is complex and should be studied from multiple perspectives, including philosophy, anthropology, history, and religious experience. Therefore, religion is best understood as a diverse and evolving human phenomenon rather than a fixed evolutionary hierarchy.